Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Clicks to Customers podcast. I am John Horn, your host and the CEO of StubGroup. And today we're joined by another CEO, Paolo from Bytek. Paolo, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, John. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to dig into lots of stuff with you, talk about some technical stuff, some data, and how that can be used in marketing. But before we jump into the weeds, I'd love to hear just a little more about you, kind of what's your background and your background in business, and I'd love to learn more about what you're doing over at Bytek.
Yeah, for sure. I started roughly 20 years ago from now in another internet. I was handling SEO activities for many different brands in fintech, commerce, and the space has been evolved over time, obviously. And the idea from the very beginning, I studied engineering, then I've done my PhD into data analytics, has been to build software and automation in order to support marketing outcomes. Over my career, I've done for many different types of companies, first in trading, then in health tech, then for politics, many different brands at national, international level. And then 14 years ago, I started Bytek. That is the company that now I lead. 6 years ago, after, let's say, building software for many different Italian companies, because we started from Italy. And then here in my background, there is some skis because I'm living near the Dolomites. So it is, let's say, classical northern Italian lifestyle. and I met my current partners. They has been the ones which started basically Google in Italy. Basically founded another company back 15 years ago. And then we created what it is right now, the StubGroup, which is an holding company which is starting new ventures, buying ventures, traditional software companies, and then accelerating them through AI. We built Datrix, we went public, and right now we are launching different products, different services for our enterprises customer base, both in Italy, in the US, and in Dubai. Those are the three locations where we are. And right now I'm serving as a CEO in one of our child companies that is called Bytek. That is basically building a system, what we call a customer prediction platform, that is basically aiming to get the most value you can from your first party data. So we work with banking customers, retailers, software as a service, being able to aggregate everything they have about customers and then predict next customer moves and activate those pieces of information.
Awesome. Thanks for walking through that. And yeah, I'm excited to dig into that customer prediction side of things. I will say on a side note, I'm jealous of the skis in the background. I'm in here in Texas, not a lot of opportunity for skiing, so maybe I'll come visit in Italy sometime.
Yeah.
So customer prediction. So you're working with businesses who have, like you said, first party data. So that's where they have direct contact with their customers, phone numbers, email addresses, things like that. And you're helping them leverage that information. So let's kind of walk through what are some of the ways that you would come in and help a business. Let's say they've got a bunch of customer information. They're not really doing much with it right now. What do you come in and help them do with that information?
Yeah, there are many different ways. The main thing that we do generally as a, let's say, very first use case to be activated, because it's really fast to do it, it is to leverage their own first party data coming from Google Analytics, because it is easy to export those data. The data schema is always the same. So obviously when it comes to first party data, you can aggregate a lot of stuff. You can aggregate data from the CRM, from the e-commerce, from Google Analytics, from invoicing systems. You can enrich external data because you can actually ingest second party data and third party data into your systems and then just handle them like first party data. The thing is, obviously, those kind of stuff, for those kind of stuff, you need a little bit of integration. But generally, when we start a collaboration with a customer, there's two very easy things I think to be done. The very first thing it is to use one type of data, that is the one that is coming from GA4. You can actually export your data to BigQuery. There is a custom data schema, there is a standard data schema, that is always the same. Maybe you need to fix the actual tracking in order to, let's say, enhance the data quality of what you're putting into your Google Analytics, but then you can actually use it as a CDP in the end, as a very, let's say, basic CDP. And then once you have those data into BigQuery, what we can do is to sit on top of those data that you have into BigQuery and start making some predictions. Maybe if you have an e-commerce, you can actually ingest all the data about people, how they behave, what they purchase, how much they come back to the website, and then predict customer lifetime value and use that information with one single application that is super easy to activate, that is the value-based bidding one. So you can actually take that value. Let's imagine that you have, it's a very classical use case that we apply. Let's imagine that you have an e-commerce, something similar. Alice and Bob are coming to your website, they're buying the same stuff. So Alice is buying the same pair of skis maybe, and Bob, he will buy the same pair of skis. But maybe Alice is a super expert skiers that is living in a certain area where you can do a lot of fun with snow over the winter and so on. So probably Alice will continue to buy a lot in the next 6 or 12 months. Bob is just a person that now wants to try something when it comes to skiing the very first time, so it's not super expert. But maybe they're using the same pair of skis. So from a Google perspective, if you, in a classical environment, in a classical setup, if you actually push back that piece of information, so Google brought you Alice and Bob to the website, and both of those people, they would buy the same stuff. The actual feedback that you're giving back to Google is that, let's say, I've got two new customers that are the same. I want more of both. But in reality, the actual real quality of Alice is way higher than the quality of Bob. And if you're able to predict that piece of information and give back that piece of information to Google, then obviously the campaigns can be optimized. So this is the way in which we generally start generating value for our customers. And then obviously you can actually do a lot of more stuff. You can reach with more information. You can make additional predictions. You can use those predictions into CRM activities. See, many different ways.
That makes a ton of sense, because like on the Google example you're giving there, you could, those two different people, they might have the same exact search on Google. They might search, buy skis or something like that. And there's no way to know which of those people is that likely high lifetime value customer and which one is the newbie just looking for a cheap pair of skis, unless you are bringing in that type of data to Google to say, okay, well, if they match these parameters, then we can bid much more aggressively to get that traffic than these because of that lifetime value. So are you helping businesses connect their first party data with that Google Analytics data so that they can basically match up and say, okay, this person who's in our CRM is taking these actions on the website?
Yeah, this is the next steps generally, because once you've seen that you got some, let's say, decent result from what you got from your Google Analytics, the next step obviously is, I want to take the real value from the data. And then there are a couple of things to be done. We do have two systems to do that. There is the classical identity resolution system. So that is a deterministic one that is embedded. It is the very first step. Obviously, you can make prediction if you have a solid customer view of every single person that is joining your first-party data dataset, and reconciling first-party cookie from Google Analytics, maybe the hashed email or the CRM ID that you're tracking with Google Tag Manager into your Google Analytics, with the actual CRM ID from a CRM, with maybe the email that is coming from the e-commerce, a lot of different IDs into different systems. The very first thing it is to actually connect everything. So we generate our own Bytek ID that is actually enabling the customer to have this single customer view that is useful from an analysis perspective and insight perspective. But on the other side, because it is the solid foundation in order to, let's say, build features over people and then run those models in an efficient way. There is another thing that is tied to the online, obviously, scenario. Obviously, this is something, the actual identity resolution, the classical identity resolution, it is something that is tied to any use case. One of our main customers, that is Iper La Grande I, it is an Italian customer, is a big retailer with more than 3 million people in the database. What they do is to connect all the data that are coming from the offline transaction in the physical stores with the actual online transactions, even for drive-to-store purchases. The thing is, even in the online context, in a pure online context, there is another problem that you need to solve when it comes to identity resolution. That is the actual persistency of data. With iOS, with third-party cookie, that in some cases has been disappearing. Let's say tracking people in a cross-site environment, it is super tough. Being persistent in tracking a person, even if that person in Europe we have GDPR, or in California you have CCPA. The thing is, even if the person on the other side is open to be tracked and that person has been accepted to be tracked, then maybe Safari is deciding that you don't need to track that person, or the cookie will disappear in 5 days. So we do have also our own persistent ID, obviously privacy compliant, based on the actual consent of the person and so on. This is actually able to substitute the first party cookie in a persistent way. So you can track the same user across different properties and in a persistent way, and even the identity resolution process can be more solid.
That's a big deal. Yeah, because like you said, it's getting harder and harder to just track how people are navigating online right now. And track, obviously there's different perspectives on this. There's the creepy, oh, you're tracking me, but there's this reality of, hey, we're trying to give people a better experience and to operate our businesses more efficiently and giving people that experience. And so it sounds like you're saying essentially, is it a cookie? Like, is it a first party cookie that you're creating and persisting, or is it a different type of technology that allows you to accomplish that?
It is a different type of technology. It is a different type of technology that is based on different signals that you're collecting from the customer. Obviously, this is something that you can activate only when the person on the other side is actually giving you the permission to do that. The thing is, here it is to provide a better experience, in personalization examples. I don't want to see a thing that is not relevant to me.
That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, Paolo, thank you so much again for coming on. So I'll put the link to Bytek, Bytek.ai in the description here. And if you're watching this and this sounds intriguing to you, go check it out. Schedule a time with Paolo and his team. Thank you again for coming on, Paolo. And for those watching, thank you again for your time. As always, let's go forth and make each and every day better than the last. Take care.